Vote in the Friendo Awards now. Download the Wrestling Amino app and make your voice heard in our Best of 2016 awards. The link to the app is in the description.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to Going in Raw Count Out, the only podcast that I think counts down stuff in the wrestling world.
Yeah, wrestling-themed countdowns.
That we know of. That we know of. We're sure there's others. Maybe. Maybe they're not. I don't know.
I don't know either.
That'd be weird, right? If we're the only podcast count out that specifically counts things down.
For wrestling.
I'm
sure there's other podcasts that count things down. Counting things down is a pretty popular format.
It is. It absolutely is. Anyways,
that's how we kind of made our names for ourselves, you know?
I know.
Counting things
brought
down.
us to the dance.
Yeah.
And anyways, this is the time of the year when we're looking back on, hey, wait a second. Isn't today Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Likewise.
This is the time of the year, Christmas, when we look, we're recording this well in advance of Christmas. When we look back.
Not really well in advance. This is like 5 days before.
When we look back on the year that was this weekend, we're taking a look at most disappointing matches of 2016 and best matches.
Which we did yesterday.
Of 2016. Is it Saturday? Saturday's Christmas Eve? That
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay. All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I really wish I knew where my Christmas hat was.
Put on the Kevin Owens Christmas stocking.
Oh, it's a stocking. I thought it was a hat.
Well, stocking.
I'm using that stocking, though.
You can still put it on your head.
I'm using that shit. Can I?
You can try.
Maybe.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
A big chunk of green behind my head. Can I put in a space field back
Please
there?
do.
It's not going to fit on my head, you idiot.
It's worth a try.
Check it out. I'm like Daniel Plainview. Union Oil. They signed the Bandy Tract. Anyways, so today we're looking at the most disappointing matches of 2016.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily bad matches per se. Just disappointing. Your hair is fantastic.
One of these
right now.
I actually really liked, I'll be honest with you.
Which one did you really like?
But I'll let you keep it on here. It's your pick.
Oh, number 10.
10. Tag Team Apocalypto.
Again, not bad. I was just a little disappointed by it.
Well, one of our favorite matches of the year, which
we did talk about.
We did talk about yesterday, was Final Deletion.
Yes. We both love Final Deletion, but I think we both agreed the least interesting actual aspect of Final Deletion was the wrestling.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like the build-up to it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of the fireworks spots.
Yeah.
Some of the, like
the dialogue, little bits of dialogue.
Yeah, the dialogue and the character stuff, which was the most interesting part. Tag Team Apocalypto, they got some of that stuff in, but it was still a wrestling match that's kind of all over the place. And also, granted, I know Matt Hardy tweeted invitations. Well, he said every tag team ever
in space and time
was invited.
Yeah.
So I know none of the WWE tag teams are going to show up. I understand that. But it would have been cool to have, I mean, Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett. I know Trevor, I think they've both done work for PWG.
Right.
Haven't seen it.
Right.
If they're with PWG, they're probably pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it would have been interesting to see more variety in the tag teams apart from them and the Rock and Roll Express, and then a bunch of TNA tag teams, I think. Some of them I had no idea who they were.
Do you know if Daniels and or Kazarian have an issue with TNA?
I don't know, but I don't know if their Ring of Honor contract would allow them to participate.
Right.
And that's the thing. I understand people are into contracts.
Yeah, yeah. I know. No, I agree with you. I think it would have been interesting to see. I honestly think it's this. If the Young Bucks had said yes, you would have seen a whole slew. And again, like you said, I don't know if contractually any of those could do that.
Yeah.
It would have been cool though if the WWE and TNA opened up their contracts, gave a one-time allowance, because the Final Deletion, the broken Matt Hardy storyline really has transcended promotions into the world of wrestling. It's just something that's really, really cool.
WWE kind of did their own Final Deletion.
Mm-hmm,
with
an homage.
The Wyatt Family Compound.
That's right.
Vignette starring the Wyatt family and the New Day.
Yeah. So your sort of basic premise for putting this on the most disappointing matches was also they try to have too much of a good thing. The Final Deletion was what it was. We didn't see the second one.
Oh, Delete or Decay. No.
Right, exactly. And this is like the big climax. Like this is the big total nonstop deletion where it was all the Hardy compound.
Yeah.
Or the Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and like I said, it wasn't bad.
I chuckled a couple so much during this.
But I thought the Final Deletion was far and away more entertaining.
I think the problem, you're right. The main problem with this is Tag Team Apocalypto. Every tag team from space and time should have been included in this. How could it not be disappointing?
I know.
Because, like the Mega Powers weren't there.
Well, one of the Road Warriors was there.
One of the Road Warriors was there. Pretty big deal. The New Age Outlaws weren't there.
Correct.
Name some other amazing tag teams from back in the day.
The Killer Bees.
The Killer Bees weren't there.
Nope. Heart Foundation.
Heart Foundation wasn't there. Cesaro and Tyson Kidd weren't there. So you're right in that every tag team was invited. Nobody showed up.
Yeah.
But the Rock and Roll Express did show up.
Yeah. There were some funny bits with them.
Yeah.
There were some funny bits.
Get me down here, you crazy son of a bitch.
There weren't funny bits. There were funny bits.
I thought it was. I was chuckling quite a bit. I thought it was very clever, and I thought that one of the most. I'll just say this, even though I know I'm using it incorrectly, but one of the most viral moments of the wrestling year was, and as cheesy as it was Matt Hardy and the Hurricane burying the promising young talent and taking a swipe at Triple H, all tongue-in-cheek, all seemingly in good fun. It was ridiculous. I thought that moment transcended the whole wrestling thing. I think that was the moment everybody was pointing to. Oh, okay, that was funny.
Yeah.
But I see your point. I'm not necessarily going to disagree because when it was first pitched, Tag Team Apocalypto, and he was inviting everybody, you think at least somebody big was going to show up.
Yeah.
I know. I agree with you. I like how much I like.
What about about Ole and Arn Anderson?
Ole and Arn Anderson. That's what I was trying to go for. I was trying to wait. Who in the Four Horsemen were two?
Ole and Arn.
Yeah, there you go. The Revival.
Yeah, that'd been great.
I know. I heard the
American
Revival
Alpha.
there.
We give them something to do.
Give them something to do. The Ascension. Give them something to do. They'd fit in perfectly.
Before Zack Ryder blew out his knee.
I know.
They shot this weeks ago.
Oh yeah. I thought it was. You see, did we get an update on I don't know what he's going by now. Is he still going by Abyss? Mm-hmm. Okay, he got tagged by that firework.
Yeah.
It looked like.
Yeah.
Boy, it looked like he got him.
But what the match boiled down to essentially was the Decay against the Broken Hardys again.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Which I thought that was already decided with the leader Decay.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I haven't been exposed too much to TNA, but it was just funny to see, like, among the other total nonstop deletion stuff, like Lashley and Eddie Edwards showing up with the Hardy. I like that they were all there. Let me ask you this: what would you rather watch weekly? Total nonstop deletion as a weekly show, or TNA Impact Wrestling? I would totally be into a long form.
Yeah, probably total nonstop deletion because you don't know what you're gonna get week in and week out.
Exactly. And to me, before we move on, the part that I love about total nonstop deletion is Jeff Hardy constantly breaking character to make sure little Maxwell isn't too freaked out. That is the cutest goddamn thing. He is like the most fun uncle.
Probably, yeah.
I love that stuff.
And not watching a lot of TNA, I was not aware of Jeff Hardy's alter ego, Itchweed.
See, this was the thing here. You're going
so
wrong.
Weird.
We need to expand our horizons.
So weird.
I love it though.
His finishing move's an elbow.
That's great. Let's see here. We also number 9.
Nine.
Samoa Joe versus Shinsuke Nakamura, NXT Osaka, Japan. This is when Shinsuke took the title back from Samoa Joe after Samoa Joe shockingly won it from Shinsuke at Takeover Toronto. Correct. Yeah. I love your first note here because it's totally true. They look tired and jet lagged.
And Corey Graves pretty much said as much on commentary.
Interesting thing about this. Oh, wait. No, this is the Osaka one. One of our friendos on Twitter mentioned the Australia, the cage match, their blow-off match. They said they edited that down to shit.
Oh, really?
Because live it was spectacular. I don't know. I mean, remember that episode? They jammed a lot into there.
Yeah, and that was the first match of the night.
I still find it odd that they let their blow-off match be a pre-taped, like edited down cage match.
Yeah,
and the cage
weird.
match was filmed horribly.
Yeah. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it was filmed so poorly that they didn't want it.
That could be. That could be.
Maybe this match was cut down too. I don't know.
So this is kind of the story of two matches. It's the final two matches in the Samoa Joe Shinsuke Nakamura feud. This one was in Osaka, Japan, and the other one, like I said, was in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They were both not good. Neither of them were very good. On TV,
yes.
At least, what we saw, they weren't very good.
The Osaka match was short.
Yeah.
12 minutes, roughly.
Yeah.
Their two takeover matches were at least 20 minutes each.
Yeah.
And those matches were intense, hard-hitting. I mean, they had different feels, like the NXT Brooklyn match where Shinsuke won the title had a slower, more kind of shoot fight feel, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
And their second match, the pace was much quicker.
Right.
Both really good matches. And so, they set a pretty high bar for what they could do in the ring. And, maybe this match, like the Australia match, was edited down. I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. We just know what we're presented to us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But as a match where Shinsuke recaptured the belt and then their blow-off match, it was underwhelming.
Yeah, I know. You expect, like, these two had one of the feuds of the year. And, you got Sasha versus Charlotte Banks. Granted, that wasn't in the main event, but it almost felt like a main event,
it did.
Especially that finish. And it was live and it was given a big spotlight. And then these were kind of it was just weird. Like, it was such a massive feud. It was NXT's cornerstone feud of the year, basically. And the blow-offs were just relegated to just sort of, it was almost like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It was like an afterthought.
Well, it felt like, it felt like an obligation.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like we have to conclude this story. We're going to do it on 2 consecutive weeks of TV. One of them, at least, significantly edited for television. And so our top 2 guys can move on to something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe probably to the main roster.
Yeah, I would think so.
I would suspect.
A little weird.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but we do have 2 really good takeover matches between these guys.
I know, you can't complain too much. Like, it was a hell of a feud, especially the way they do things on NXT, which is a bit more difficult to really have real good meaty feuds.
Yeah.
It's a bit more different. It's a bit different than they usually do.
Yeah.
Number 8. Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam 2016.
So, this feud kicked off on the very first episode of SmackDown Live TV.
Yes.
Where, seemingly in direct response to Raw the previous night, where they had that little mini tournament to determine the new Universal Champion because Finn was hurt.
Yeah.
They had a 6-pack challenge to determine a new number 1 contender.
Right.
To Dean Ambrose's WWE Championship. And surprisingly, Dolph Ziggler won that match.
Who did we think was going to come out
Well,
of that?
I mean, AJ was a participant.
AJ was a participant.
Bray Wyatt was a participant.
That's right.
As was John Cena.
Was Baron Corbin?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Dolph was definitely a surprise victor there, but in some ways it was kind of like that was one of the few things I actually liked about that first episode. It was cool. For some of these guys, it's kind of a reset button.
Yeah.
And let's see what they can do.
Yeah.
And for The Miz, that really panned out. For Dolph, to a degree. But
Yeah.
I thought this was a good start for him.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so a lot of people over the years have been like, man, Dolph really never had a defining world title run. Now, I don't think any of us thought that this was going to lead to a Dolph title run.
No. But they did a good job of making it interesting, the storyline leading up to it.
They did everything in their power, and they were relatively successful, thinking maybe Dolph will have a chance. Now, I never for a second thought that was going to be the case, but in terms of what they could do, they did everything they could.
Yes.
They did everything they could.
I mean, Dolph delivered some of his most impassioned promos of his entire career.
Yeah.
He was doing great promo work.
Yes.
Dean actually seemed into it. For at least a few weeks, he wasn't comedic champ Dean.
Right, exactly. And that was like the big bummer about about Dean Ambrose's title run, is that they just used him as like this comedic guy. And it's like, no, man, he should be. And that was one thing about like the beginning, like literally before the bell rang, how they had the refs kind of have to separate them because Dean was all hyped up and Dolph was all hyped up. And I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be really intense, fast-paced fever match. And it was not that.
No, especially considering both participants can work a really fast pace.
Right, exactly. Like they can really move. And instead it was like move, rest, move, rest, move, rest. And it was like, you're not power wrestlers. This isn't a Haas match.
No.
Like, why are they doing that? And I remember just being like, we were there live. I remember being completely completely underwhelmed. Like, nothing brought my attention to the match.
There was that one spot on the outside where Dolph headbutted Dean, then super kicked him. That was it.
That was it.
That's really the only spot I remember live.
Yeah,
watching.
and the funny thing is, too, before this match, I think at the open of the show, or maybe before the first SmackDown match happened, Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon came out and they started raising expectations, saying later on you're going to see Dolph versus Dean, and they're going to steal the show. And they didn't even come close. Another SmackDown match did steal the show. It was John Cena versus AJ Styles.
Yes.
But it was not Dolph Ziggler versus Dean. Where was this on
It was more or less the middle of the card.
AJ Styles. Okay, so this was after. This was too. I mean, one thing is this. So AJ Styles versus John Cena was a spectacular match. It was a really good match.
Yeah.
That was followed by a so-so. It was a 10-minute tag team champion. So I remember kind of like just being spent already.
Oh, yeah.
So it didn't help. Its placement didn't help. If this had happened after the Miz's like non-existent match with Apollo Crews, and then you have the tag match, and then you have AJ Styles, maybe it was a matter of, man, but then we watched it back, and just in a vacuum, that match is not very good.
Lackluster. It feels like a SmackDown match.
It does. It was just move, and then they recover. And I know we bitch about people selling, but like there's a line between selling and...
Well, I mean, yeah, you could sell and still have a decent pace and flow to your match.
You can sell and act like you have some stamina.
Yeah.
Because it felt like neither guys had any stamina.
Yeah.
It was weird. Anyways. Number 7. The Rock versus Eric Rowan. WrestleMania 32.
I mean, I hesitate to actually consider this a match, but the bell rang. There was a ref.
There was an actual match.
Pinfall was counted.
The Rock wrestled a WrestleMania match in the year 2016, and A, it was against Eric Rowan.
And B, it lasted 6 seconds, and they made a point of announcing it. After the finish, the winner in 6 seconds, The Rock.
Was that supposed to be like a record? Did they set like
I don't know.
They make a deal about a record?
Well,
They
speaking
gave
of
The Rock
records, The Rock came out. I believe this was right before the main event.
The entire Rock experience at WrestleMania these days is like a parody on itself.
Yeah, and it's usually a huge like time vampire too.
It's a time vampire, and it's just confusing
because you're gonna get at least a 20-minute segment.
Part of me thinks that The Rock is simply doing like surrealist performance art.
I think so, because I'm sure he has carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
I'm pretty sure you're right, and from what I heard, he wanted to work with the Wyatts.
Yeah, I heard that too. So The Rock comes out with a flamethrower.
Yeah,
lights his name on fire,
which sounds awesome.
But it took like
30 minutes,
at least 8 minutes to get to that point. He comes down to the ring to announce that they had broken some sort of attendance record.
Which in the end, did they?
No.
In the end,
no, they inflated the numbers. And so while he's dropping that promo, out comes the Wyatt family. Yeah. So, there's some decent back and forth.
So immediately you and I are both disappointed because we're like, shit. The Rock is going to call Bray Wyatt a bitch of some sort, some variation.
But he didn't. He put him over.
Remember? Yeah, no, he said
you have all the ingredients. You have everything. You have the ability. You have the charisma. You have a beard.
Is that condescending?
No, it wasn't.
No, I know he wasn't being condescending. But like Bray Wyatt doesn't need to hear that from The Rock.
Well, he doesn't need to, but I mean, it's good to get
validation from The Rock
from one of the greatest superstars in the history of the business.
Okay, I'm sold.
And The Rock's seem genuine.
All right, you're right. I'm sold.
But then, then The Rock says, "I'm not here for a WrestleMania fight, but a WrestleMania match." By this point, he already has his shirt off, and so as the Wyatts commiserate about who's going to face The Rock, The Rock rips his pants off, and he has his wrestling trunks on. He came prepared for a match.
How awesome would it have been if he was full naked? That would have been great. That would have been on like best matches.
Yeah, that would have been the best
immediately
matches of the year list.
Just buff ass, buck naked Rock, dick everywhere, butt cheeks, his cakes out.
Mm-hmm. So the Wyatts decided it's going to be Eric Rowan facing The Rock.
I know. That's great.
So one rock bottom, 1 3 count, pinfall, The Rock wins.
Just a rock bottom, not even a people's elbow.
That came later, though.
Yeah.
So, of course, the Wyatts, they attack.
Yeah, of course.
John Cena comes out.
Yeah.
Joins forces with The Rock to fight off the Wyatts. And Bray Wyatt eats a people's elbow.
Was Cena half injured at that time?
Yeah, he was still recuperating.
So he didn't have a match, but he came out.
Yeah. And so was Bray. Bray was injured too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
That's why he didn't have a match, like a real match on the card, because he's, rumors were he's going to face Brock Lesnar.
Brock, that's right. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It kind of honestly makes me wonder, what's The Rock going to do this year?
Well, you better carve out 20 minutes of the day for whatever it is.
Oh man,
because it's going to be at least 20 minutes long.
It's going to be at least 20. They fill so much time with The Rock, but people love The Rock.
I know.
I mean, you can't blame them.
The segment at WrestleMania 31 that we saw was way too long.
Oh, it was way too long.
But it was still neat.
I like that. Ronda Rousey. She's so stinking cute.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah, no, I know that was just from him lighting his name on fire. It's like, was this his idea? Doesn't Brian Gewirtz work for him?
Yeah.
I wonder if it was his idea. Because, he used to be the head writer over there.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of does he have input? Does he pitch Rock on ideas and they're kind of just so ridiculous because of that? But Rock's like, oh, that's great. Now we'll do that. I'm sure Rock isn't on whatever joke is being pitched to him, because Rock is a savvy
smart guy.
But I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if Rock was like, Brian, they're going to let me do anything. You have to really like a dude if you're going to bring him over.
I know.
Hey, they're going to let me do anything. And Brian's like, all right, how about this, Rock? Light your name on fire. And Rock is probably cracking up.
With what? Like without a torch?
He's like,
flamethrower.
Flamethrower, man.
Like you made it in your garage.
It was, what was that movie where they made the car for it? The car was Medusa.
Bellflower. Bellflower, yeah.
Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, it's great.
I love that movie. It's such a cool flick. All right, number 6. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2016.
Now, the match itself wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
Especially considering that Finn worked pretty much all the match with a bum shoulder.
I was so thoroughly disappointed in the crowd that I was in that night, because they would not shut up about that belt.
Right before the match started, Stephanie and Mick Foley come out and debut the new Universal Championship.
Which, granted, looks like red vomit.
Yeah, it's not a handsome belt. But you boo, you get it out of your system, you move on with your day, because there's two really good competitors busting their ass
versus Finn Balor
for that belt, regardless if it's ugly or not. Give these competitors the respect of your attention.
And let's be frank, in Finn Balor's demon getup, the belt probably looked pretty cool.
Yeah. But no. Every time they showed the belt on the Titantron, chorus of boos.
Yep.
That looks ugly.
Yeah. Get a new belt, or we want a new belt, some shit like that.
They just wouldn't stop.
There was one comical moment.
Oh, the delete?
Yeah, they chanted delete.
But
otherwise it's completely.
It was hard to get into the match.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like you feel embarrassed to be part of that.
Yeah.
And because it's like, man, these guys are killing. Like, did you imagine that? Like, how many people were in attendance at SummerSlam? I don't know.
Oh, like 16,000.
Okay, yeah, okay. Can you imagine, just having to hear that shit? Like,
especially for Finn Balor.
Busting your... I know.
I mean, that's your first huge major pay-per-view match. You get to win the top belt on the show.
How'd you feel about that, Finn?
Hurt.
Not good.
You blow out your shoulder, taking a buckle bomb on the barrier, and then you have to wrestle another 15 minutes. Hurt.
Yeah.
And the crowd's just hijacking the match.
I know.
Completely.
I know. We talk about, when people hijack the match. Like, the other night on Raw, when Charlotte was dropping a promo and they started doing the what stuff. Just stop with that shit. Like, there is actually, surprisingly, for me, there is a time and place for the what chant. I think it still has a place when they bring in a celebrity that isn't Jon Stewart. 'Cause I love Jon Stewart. He's good.
He is good.
If they brought in that 70 shows guys and they brought him in the middle of the ring, what them? They don't belong there. They're not wrestlers. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because nobody's paying money to go see them.
No.
Otherwise, if you have a wrestler in the ring who's busting their ass, who's performing for you,
give him your attention.
Give him your attention. Give him some freaking respect. People.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was not into that at all. It's a freaking belt. Who cares? And nobody cares. And that was kind of my concern is, oh, man, is this just going to be a thing now?
And I think the following night on Raw, there was a little bit of booing, and that was it.
And Rollins, he tweeted out,
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed in you guys.
Yep.
It shouldn't be how the thing we're fighting for looks. It should be that we're fighting for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I totally agree with that.
Oh, yeah,
I'm glad
100%.
he said that.
100%.
And you know what? The next day, it's funny because you pointed this out. The next day, when Finn Balor was doing the media rounds with the belt, it looked fine.
Yeah.
It looked fine.
I thought even the promo stills they released that morning afterwards, you know, like studio shot, well lit.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't look that bad.
I think one of the problems, it was resting on like a red velvet stool or a table thing.
Yeah.
And like the red against the red,
It was
it
just
just
too much
looked like
red.
a big mess of red and
Yeah.
like bleeding through my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I'll say it's not a handsome belt,
Yeah.
but so what?
Yeah.
So what?
I know. Number 5.
5.
Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho in an Asylum match.
Extreme Rules 2016. Now, let's talk about the rules of an Asylum match, Steve.
What are their rules?
It's a cage match.
It is a cage match, and there's a bunch of random shit
The door is locked.
just hanging around.
The only way you can win is by pinfall or submission.
Okay.
Some of the implements hanging above the cage, which just makes the whole endeavor kind of awkward.
A mop and a bucket.
A straight jacket,
A potted plant.
a leather strap, nunchucks,
Nunchucks. And a 2x4 with barbed wire.
and a fire extinguisher.
Yes. Now this.
All of them came into play during the match except the potted plant.
Yeah.
Because if you remember,
Mitch.
Mitch, the potted plant, got broken by Jericho,
Broken. Deleted.
deleted in the build-up to this epic encounter.
Yeah. It was a really long match. And it was kind of, I remember watching it at the time, and then we watched it back before we recorded this. And it felt like kind of a case of 2 matches in one. The first, so it's a 26-minute match.
And like the first 19 minutes feels like filler.
Right. It's so long and like slow and plodding.
Directionless.
Yeah, and directionless.
And then Ambrose delivers an elbow off the top of the cage, climbs the cage, gets the bucket, and dumps the thumbtacks.
When Ambrose landed that elbow, it felt like the match suddenly kicked into gear.
Well, it gave the match momentum, and then when the thumbtacks were introduced, it gave the match a story.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now, because there's that great shot on Jericho where he sees the thumbtacks getting dumped out, and he's
yeah,
horrified.
And then eventually, he takes the back bump onto them, and then he gets the dirty deeds into them, kind of on the periphery.
Yeah, but the 19 minutes leading up to it was just a lot of awkward, clumsy weapon spots with zero impact.
And it's funny, we were watching this, and we were watching this, and we were watching the other Ambrose, one of the other Ambrose matches. There's like a lot of Ambrose matches.
Yeah, we were watching the SummerSlam one.
The SummerSlam, thank you, yeah. And I think one of my problems with Dean is that he can, and I know there's a lot of Dean Ambrose fans, and I like a lot of Dean Ambrose. I like when he does his really impassioned promos. I find him legit.
Yeah.
Some of his fundamentals, like when he punches, just seem really weak. It kind of, I liken it to Randy Orton's clothesline or his lariat.
Yeah.
I forget which one it is. But it just, how he sort of bends it back like this, and it looks really non-effective. And when Ambrose does these fast punches, they just look so weak. They look like they're not connecting. It looks like he's not putting any body into it.
Yes.
And so some of his fundamentals just, I don't believe that there's a fight going on. And one of the things that he said in the Stone Cold podcast was he loved those old 70s NWA champions who were just there for a fight. He's like a fighting guy, but like his fighting skills seem sort of lazy.
Lackluster.
Yeah, lackluster.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I kind of felt like that match and the SummerSlam one were kind of the same sort of story.
So we'll talk about this more in another entry, but I was curious how long Dean's match against Triple H at Roadblock earlier this week
Which was a fantastic match.
Yeah, that's the best match of Dean Ambrose's career, probably.
Yeah, it's a fantastic
in terms of
match.
pure storytelling.
Yeah.
It was 24 minutes long.
Yeah, so
It
virtually
didn't feel
the same
that long.
length. Yeah,
it did not feel that long because
I know.
the pace was quick.
Yeah.
There was great storytelling going on. It was engaging.
Yeah.
It was only a little bit more than a minute shorter than this Asylum match.
Now we're filming this. Was that on yesterday's list?
This one? No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It could have been. It was a really good match.
Yeah, it was really good.
My thing is, I like giving people their due. I'm not like an anti Dean Ambrose guy.
No.
I look back on his title run, which I was really looking forward to, and I understand a lot of it's creative, but it was lackluster.
Yeah.
And then some of his matches this year were just lackluster. It's not always his fault.
No.
But in the kind of case with Chris Jericho and the kind of case, I remember there was one thing about this match though. Didn't we get the impression that they might have said right before the match, "We need you guys to stretch for time"?
I vaguely remember that.
I thought there was some aspect. There was something like another match ran short, and or a match had to be excised from the pay-per-view or something. I forget what it was.
No, I remember that too. I don't remember the exact particulars, but I remember talking about it on one of our other shows. Maybe on one of our recaps, whether for Machinima on our channel for that pay-per-view. We talk about that.
Yeah, I got that feeling. And so, again, sort of circumstances out of the performer's control. And so they have to either stall for time or whatever. And who knows if that's the case. But it also, just like the random shit just floating around, it felt TNA. Mm-hmm. It felt TNA.
Yeah. No, it did.
They have their own version of an Asylum match, don't they? I remember people.
I'm sure they do.
What's their version of the Hell in a Cell?
Oh, what's it called? It's in it's kind of like a combination Hell in a Cell elimination chamber looking cage, right?
Okay,
it's got a dome roof on it, doesn't it?
TNA Asylum. Well, they also refer to their early days as the Asylum days.
Yeah.
Asylum years.
It's not Full Metal Mayhem. I don't.
That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking.
I think that's kind of like their TLC match.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's their TLC match. Okay, never mind. Okay, moving on. Number 4. Roman Reigns versus Triple H, WrestleMania 32.
Yeah. 27 minutes long.
This is when Roman Reigns won the title back from Triple H, who had won it in our number 2 match. Which
we'll talk about later.
27 minutes long. My goodness.
Let's go back to late 2015.
Yes.
On episode of Raw.
Roman Reigns is hot.
He beat Sheamus for the title in Philadelphia, the same city that booed the hell out of the finish of the Royal Rumble earlier that year when Roman Reigns won. Mm-hmm. They popped huge when, first, he punched Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I popped huge for that.
And then beat Sheamus for that title.
And because him and Sheamus had like a really, really cool match. Like they had like a really brutal physical encounter. It was, and even like the night before at that pay-per-view is when he beat the crap out of Triple H.
Yeah.
So it was Roman Reigns was being booked the way Roman Reigns should be booked. Mm-hmm. For a very brief period of time, they had him perfect. And they had him. If they kept on booking him that way, if they booked him the entire time since the Shield breakup, he'd have been selling merch.
Yep.
He'd have been
hot
stuff.
Huge star.
So Triple H booked himself to win the title.
Yeah. But we called that. We kind of thought that was going to happen.
We figured that would happen, even though like when you look back on it now, it's like there is so many other people that he could have used as his proxy.
Oh yeah.
Who then you could say, oh, they had their title reign.
I know.
Because it's nice to say, oh, Dean Ambrose, he was rewarded for all his work. He got his title reign.
Yeah.
So, that could have been, I don't know, Bray Wyatt. I don't know, somebody. I mean, I know that wouldn't have fit.
No, I know what you mean.
Could have been, at that time, it could have been Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
So that led to WrestleMania, Roman Reigns versus Triple H. Now, here's the problem with this. Just, was it a month earlier? They had Triple H versus Dean Ambrose.
Great match.
For a great, 24 minutes, so 3-minute difference.
Network special, too.
Network special.
Not the most, what they call it, the biggest WrestleMania ever. That's what they're hoping for. They want to break indoor attendance records.
Right.
They want to have the hugest wrestling show in the history of wrestling shows. This was going to be the main event.
Right.
And granted, remember, your couch was over here at the time. Mm-hmm. We were sitting here watching it. We live streamed the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And granted, it was, like 4+ hours into our day. We were exhausted already.
Yeah.
But that match at 27 slow, plodding, unexciting minutes just drained whatever energy we had left.
And dude, I'm still firmly of the opinion that Triple H was trying to make Roman Reigns
work for it.
Mm-hmm. I really honestly believe that. I think he thought with Dean Ambrose that Dean Ambrose had earned the right to have Triple H put him over in such a manner. And I think that he wanted Roman Reigns to earn that right in the main event at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he did. I mean, he won the title, but...
Yeah. But he didn't put on a good match.
No, they did not put on... Roman Reigns needs somebody to be the ring general.
Yeah.
He can't do it himself. He can't lead anybody to a good match. He can have good matches if he has a quality opponent.
Look at his matches.
Styles.
Yeah, with AJ.
Yep. Perfect example of that.
Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a stinker of a match, and I kind of blame Triple H for that. But,
So
so anybody out there saying you guys are all over Triple H's ass, not for that.
no,
one.
the
Not
crowd
for that
popped once during this match. When did that happen?
one. Oh, when Reigns speared Stephanie. That's right. I think I popped for that too because there's nothing else to pop for, and they don't let them do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while that's okay.
Yeah.
Every once in a while
Yeah.
that's okay. And on top of that, wasn't it it was an accidental one, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was going after Triple H. Triple H got out of the
okay.
way.
So it's accidental.
No, I
It's
know.
Okay. So yeah, what a stinker of a match that was.
Yeah, that was not good.
I mean, it's funny, dude, because the WrestleMania the year before, which one did we go to? The one
31.
31. When it was Reigns versus Lesnar, that was even before Seth Rollins came in. That was shaping up to be a decent match.
Yeah,
like Lesnar and Reigns were gelling.
They had a decent story going.
Yeah, they had a decent.
Whereas
story
this match didn't feel like it had any story.
I know there was nothing going on. Number 3.
3.
Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, Hell in a Cell 2016.
Looking past the rumors and leaks from Ric Flair leading up to it that, you know, there was that Charlotte asked to do a moonsault off the top of the cage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we heard leaks and rumors or and stuff like that they were going to do some crazy high spots.
Mm-hmm.
Put that aside.
Yeah.
It was still kind of a disappointing match. Mostly for the finish, which apparently
Mostly for the finish.
Vince changed the day before.
Yeah. I thought that they killed it the first half of the match.
Yeah.
Because the story they were telling they didn't even start off inside the cage. They were lowering the cage, and they got out from there. And Charlotte immediately attacked Sasha.
And then Sasha was under the cage as it was lowering. They stopped it.
Right,
then
exactly.
Charlotte powerbombed her through the announce table.
Through the table. I thought that stuff was really cool. Then they climbed up a little bit, and then Sasha had to be wheeled off, and then she got off the gurney and went in.
Yeah, the first
stretcher.
half, they were setting up a really good story.
Yeah, they were.
But it was completely undermined by the finish, because when Vince apparently woke up Saturday morning and said, I'm going to change the finish of this match so Charlotte wins, they either didn't have time or just didn't go back and rewrite the story of the match.
Yeah.
The story of the match, it felt like Sasha had to win it. Mm-hmm. That was the story.
It was her hometown.
She got beat down in the beginning, came back, and won.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense.
Yeah. And on top of that, like it wasn't even the problem also was, and I had always speculated if it was presentation, in that the camera work and the direction didn't help to build to the finish.
Yeah.
Because it ended with, so she tosses Sasha twice into a table and it didn't break. And we had speculated that the breaking table would be like the finish.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So she just hit a natural selection and pinned her.
Yeah.
And that whole sequence, I swear, was like in one shot from Long.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, that's it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
But also Charlotte, both of them are so good at telling stories with expressions.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, just look at the match, the Iron Man match they had at Roadblock.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlotte the whole time seemed like was talking to herself.
Yeah, and they got great close-ups on her.
And Sasha can express in the ring really well too.
Right. Yeah. And so I do think that this finish, number one, you're absolutely right. Like, from everything we understand, Vince woke up, and that's sort of our in joke right now is, oh, Vince woke up and changed his mind. But I do think that even with that finish, which I wasn't huge on, the presentation was so much, because they literally could have done the exact same thing, and had it been filmed and directed properly,
injected some drama into it.
It actually would have been like, oh wow, man, Charlotte's like, she's not fucking around. In that case, the story would have been Charlotte got the upper hand early, took Sasha off her game, and then dominated, and Sasha didn't have a chance to come back, which is a story.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the greatest one, but it's there, and then it gives you motivation to go on. But this just felt like, oh, well, a couple things we tried didn't work. Let's end this. Let's go home.
Well, also, you know, you say you write a movie, and the day you shoot the finale, you're like, I'm going to just do the exact opposite of what I was going to do.
Exactly.
But you'd already shot, you know, this movie you shot in order, which never happens. You already got the rest of the movie shot.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, that's the new ending, and doesn't really make sense narratively based on the whole setup. But
what the hell?
But whatever.
Yeah. exactly. Number 2.
2.
Royal Rumble 2016, the actual Royal Rumble match for Roman Reigns'
WWE Championship. Now, there was a highlight of this match.
The debut of AJ Styles.
Yeah, that was great.
People popped for big time.
I remember watching this match, and every time that he got into a little fight with somebody in the ring, I was like, oh, man.
Ooh, dream match.
They're teasing a feud.
Dream match story. And then, like, none of them ever happened. I mean, maybe one.
Didn't he?
Who did he get eliminated by?
He had a little segment with Jericho, I thought, during the match. Maybe I'm imagining that.
Maybe.
And he actually feuded with him.
Didn't he have, like, a segment with Kevin Owens? And it was like, ooh, AJ versus Kevin Owens. So that was it. There were no surprise entrants other than AJ.
Yeah.
What happened to, like, when Jake the Snake Roberts comes in? What happens when DDP comes in? Bring Booker T back, just to hop in the Rumble and get eliminated.
Yeah.
What happened to the surprise entrance? There were no surprise entrants. You look at who was in the match, and it was like just the entire roster up and down, which is great for those people. But, man, I'm sorry. You got to sacrifice a couple of those guys for some surprise entrance.
Excitement.
So,
leading up to the match, Reigns was punished and had to be the number one entrant.
You're going to be number one. I'm going to defend your title.
And then Rusev, who at the time was a member of the League of Nations, who were brought together to help Sheamus retain the World Championship.
Boy, that League of Nations was...
Rusev was like the only good thing about that.
He was. He really
was number 2.
Yes.
So they started the match, and as you said, no surprise entrants other than AJ.
Yeah.
At one point,
Reigns gets taken out by the League of Nations.
Yeah.
And then
gets put through an announce table by Rusev, and Rusev celebrates on the ground.
And instead of
they do the gurney spot where they put him on the stretcher and take him back.
Yeah.
Or did they assist him backstage?
No, they just assisted him backstage.
That's worse.
I know. He was able to walk. I mean, with help, but he was able to walk backstage.
He's got that vest on. I mean, really, it shouldn't have bothered him at all.
Like, he's fine no selling how many finishers in a row.
I know.
But like
a super kick in a code breaker, he's fine no selling.
And here's the thing. Not Roman's fault. I'm sure he didn't book this crap.
I know.
I'm not going to talk shit about Roman, but as a character and how he's being written and booked is a major problem, because then when he comes back, it's like, dude, you took a nap.
I know.
You got to heal up big. Nobody else got to do that.
And this was during that whole time after he won the belt and he started kind of fading the background a little bit.
Yeah.
And Dean was starting to become kind of the top guy on Raw, the top face, and they were using Dean to try to get Reigns over. And so during this whole time, like, Dean was an early entrant in the match, and he was in there till the very end.
That's right.
The very end.
That's right. And so, and then Triple H came out at like number 30. 30? Okay, 30.
Eliminated Ambrose last. He eliminated Reigns before that.
Yeah.
And won the belt. Again, not surprising. We predicted it.
It just made why it's amazing. It's like, okay, I understand.
And the crowd popped when Triple H won, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah. It's like, you want Roman to get over. There are some very basic things you can do to get him over.
Like have him feud with Sheamus.
Like have him, if you want to have him not sell things, then have him no sell. Like, why is he napping for half the Rumble?
I know.
Have him be down for the table spot for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a table spot. 10 minutes.
Easy. Have the medical team come out, have them start to it.
Have him push him off.
Exactly.
Have him push him away.
Yes.
And then he gets back in there. Because this is his title.
Yeah.
How do we know?
At no point it felt like he was fighting to keep that title.
When he goes backstage, how do we know he's not just going to take a nap and sleep through the Rumble?
I know.
Because then he comes back at the end of the Rumble. Like, it just feels like cheating. Remember that one year Road Dogg was just holding on to the corner and the rope?
Yeah.
It felt like that. Like, anybody can just hop in the Rumble, go down, out the ropes, and then go to the back, take a nap, wait until it's the last 4, and then mosey on back.
I know. That would be a viable strategy, actually.
That'd be my strategy for sure.
You can't be counted out.
Yeah. And then you hit L1 to go backstage and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then Triple H won. And then since Dean and Triple H are the last two, that kind of set up their match for Roadblock. And then wasn't Reigns just given opportunity to fight for the number one contendership?
Yeah, I know. It never made sense because, like, you're the authority. Why don't you just not let him be in a number one contender match? Why don't you just not let him do that? Why don't you just book him on Superstars?
I know.
What is compelling you? What is forcing you to allow this man who you don't want to win? Why are you nobody's forcing your hand. You're the authority. You're the bosses. Why are you just giving him an opportunity? Why isn't he fighting? Why aren't you making him fight for it? Oh, the idea is let's make him fight for something we don't think he can win, or put him in a position where we don't think he can win, and so he'll be humiliated and he can't do it anymore. Then he has no justifiable reason.
They've done that a couple of times and he still won.
I don't know. Maybe they just realize that they're just like, screw it, we're just gonna let him in. Number one. Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 32. WrestleMania 32 was not a good WrestleMania. There was a lot of crap. Like, at least 2 matches here. So this was fascinating because on Stone, it was a crap match.
It was a no DQ match?
Some sort of weapons thing?
Well, I mean,
no DQ, yeah. And so Dean was like teasing a lot of weapons.
He had some vignettes where he would talk with Mick Foley, and Mick Foley would give him a weapon.
Yeah,
Terry
that's
Funk
right.
gave him a chainsaw.
And it was like kind of it's okay. So here's the thing: like, one of the reasons why this is on here is not just necessarily because it was not a very good match, which it wasn't, but it was the clarification we got on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, where Dean Ambrose mentioned that Brock wasn't down to make the match interesting. He said, I wanted to do something interesting.
It was a no-holds-barred street fight.
There you go. He said, I wanted to do something interesting, but Brock wanted to do what Brock does. And
that really showed.
And Dean was, and this is where I give Dean Ambrose credit, is that, so he had those vignettes, but he was also, you can tell he was really giving it his all with what he was given. Like when he would do the thing where he'd come in, he'd get beat up by Brock Lesnar and he'd crawl back.
Yeah.
Like he was really he was selling the shit out of Brock Lesnar.
There was that one segment where he had his wagon full of weapons. He was going to the ring and tossing a bunch of stuff into his.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a
it's like a Red Rider.
Yeah,
I think so.
A wagon, yeah, that he was pulling around all these weapons in.
Yeah,
and meaning from Dean's perspective, he was setting up to be like a brutal encounter.
Right, exactly. It was like, hey, I am legitimately the crazy guy, and that's why I have a chance in this match because I'm crazy and you can't deal with crazy.
Yeah,
and Brock was just
he kind of no-sold the whole thing,
the entire thing. He would come out, kind of laugh, give him a bunch of suplexes. And this is when I was like, I'm just so anti-Brock. It was like, this is so boring to me. It's so boring.
But I remember in the lead up to WrestleMania 32, I think both of us were really excited for this match.
Yeah, because I was like, ooh, can Dean Dean's the crazy weapon guy. Can he pull it off? Can Brock just keep beating the shit out of him, but then Dean will find a weapon to bring him down, and then it'll go over and over again, and it just wasn't that. It was just, God, it was so boring.
It really wasn't anything.
Did they use, I mean, I know.
There was a kendo stick that Lesnar broke over his knee. The finish was a F5 and a pile of chairs.
Yeah.
That was it. I don't remember a whole lot of other weapon spots.
You know what's funny is that, so Brock opened up Randy Orton at SummerSlam. If he would have opened up Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania, might have saved this match. If they had gone really brutal with it, and Dean Ambrose, as we know from his days in CZW,
will do brutal.
He'll do brutal. But Brock he just coasted.
Mm-hmm.
He just coasted on this shit, you know. It's so sad that it's like a sort of, Brock apparently knows when a feud is going to be money and when he doesn't think it is. It's like, okay, but still give us something.
I know, be professional.
Be professional about it.
Put your all into it.
Try to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was crap fest. But what are you going to do? Can't all be winners, people.
Nope.
Right, yeah.
Dean Ambrose had 3 matches on this list.
Yeah, but this one wasn't his fault.
No, I know.
Number 1 wasn't his fault. Jericho might have been, the one versus Jericho might have been because of time problems.
Yeah.
So he gets out of that one, and then the other one, versus The Miz, no excuse. Or versus
you mean Dolph?
Dolph Ziggler, no excuse there.
Yeah,
both these guys are great. Ziggler and Dean are both. I mean, Ziggler's a really good worker, and when Dolph has a good worker to work against, wasn't Dean's matches against AJ?
Yeah,
they were pretty good. The TLC match was really good. Yeah. Dolph is a good worker. Is Dolph just a good worker for himself? Does he not make other people look good?
No, I mean, that's his whole thing about selling. Overselling is to make his opponent look good. It was just the pace of the match was way off.
But there's a difference between, okay, you punch me and then I make it feel like I've been punched by Superman, and us having a dance that's telling a story. That's kind of the AJ Styles thing. He can make somebody else look good, not just in how he sells for them, what he does.
Yeah.
But does Dolph...
I didn't even feel like there was a story in that match.
I know.
And that's the thing. A lot of matches that underwhelm is because they don't feel like they're telling...
And yet,
a clear, distinct story.
Dolph and The Miz had a match of the year candidate.
Yeah. Because there was a story. Dolph was fighting for his career.
Yeah.
And that story was told through the match.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Anyways, like I said, can't all be winners. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Yeah. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.